USC has really improved.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day, whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're downloading your podcast. This show is always free, and this show always appreciates your support. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. All right, let's talk about the roster as we currently know it. We're talking about which position groups improved the most since last season, since the Holiday Bowl, right? We're going to talk about the offensive first segment, defense second segment, and then we're going to kind of mix things up in the third segment, so stick around. All right, let's start with quarterback. Miller Moss, Jake Jensen. That was the quarterback room on scholarship during the Holiday Bowl. Gage Roy was next man up. By the way, Gage Roy, I want to remind people, he turned down apparently 10 Division I scholarships to come play at his dream school. So that still exists. However, they needed another scholarship quarterback. So since the Holiday Bowl, Miller basically turned into, the Will Howard transfer killer. And in fact, Will Howard is actually struggling. Well, I should say struggling. He is in a heated battle for the starting position job over there in Columbus, Ohio, with a true freshman. So I think USC made the right decision. Well, I think Will Howard made the right decision. He wasn't going to beat out Miller Moss. And I'm not even sure he would beat out Jaden Mayava, who flipped from, well, he didn't flip. He left UNLV. He went to Georgia. He was going to commit to Georgia. He then flipped from Georgia and is now a USC Trojan. So the position group is deeper. It's got some young potential. But I think as far as did it get better? Is it, how much did it improve? Still to be determined. We know what Miller is capable of. We've seen what Jaden's capable of on film when he was at UNLV. We saw a little piece of what he's capable of in the spring game. I wouldn't say it's the most improved position group on the offensive side of the ball, though. It's deeper. And by the way, what do you think Coach Riley meant when he said the quarterback position would be used differently in this year compared to previous years? I have an idea. Talk amongst yourselves. Hit me up in the comment section. What about the running backs? All right, you got Quentin Joyner and Marion Peterson. Those guys were already here. Redshirt freshmen, sophomores, whatever their class designation is. They played minimally as a true freshman last year. But we saw a little bit, we saw what Quentin Joyner is capable of. I mean, he touched the ball one time in the spring game and went for a big run. Marion Peterson really showed up, and I think he's ready to take on a bigger role this season. Now, Woody Marks, the transfer from Mississippi State, he's supposed to take over right where Marshawn Lloyd left off. And then you got Brian Jackson, the freshman from Texas. He arrived in time. He was there for spring camp. You like the way he looks. He doesn't look like a freshman. This is a really good group, and I think it's going to be a really productive unit, especially if you listen to yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. You know why I feel this way, why I think the running backs are going to be very productive in 2024. And it ties in with my question, what did Lincoln Riley mean about the quarterback? How about the offensive line? Well, so far, the only additions, they're incoming freshmen. It's hard to say that the position group is the most improved. They've recruited the position well. The last couple of recruiting classes since Lincoln Riley's been here, 10 offensive linemen? I'll get it done in the future, sooner rather than later, probably. Gino Quinones, he's coming back. He's a welcome addition. But so far, nobody through the transfer portal. No add-ons there. That's one of the positions, where Lincoln Riley said they needed to get some help, at least some depth help, specifically offensive tackle. So if the room can stay healthy and the guys that are running, on the too deep depth chart, those guys aren't being switched around and forced to do things they're not comfortable doing, kind of like what happened last year. I think the group can be better than the 2023 room. Jared Kingston, Justin Diedick, they're off in the NFL now. They're trying to secure their spots on an NFL, on an NFL roster. Michael Tarquin, he's an Oklahoma Sooner. So you know what USC has. It's young. You've got some good experience in the middle of the line. It's that tackle position. Are they better than last year? Potentially, yes. We got to see. The tight end room. Okay, from a talent standpoint, USC added some really nice pieces. Let's not forget, you got Lake McRee, who will be back. He told me personally he'll be ready for the start of fall camp. He told me that at the beginning of spring camp when he wasn't available. He's still going through the rehab process. Your most veteran player in the room, CJ Woods, redshirt senior. You have Cade Eldridge, who is a redshirt freshman. Carson Tabarachi, he made the switch and is trying to now play his third position at USC. Came in as a linebacker, I think. Tried him out as H-back or H-back. Now they're moving him to tight end. So I guess the H-back is part of the tight end room. 2.5 positions since he's been at USC. And we're looking forward to it. He's really become one of the team leaders. All right. Young guys. You got 6'5" Joey Olsen. He came in the spring. He showed off his receiving skills during the spring game. I think he needs to get a little bit stronger if he wants to help out, especially with the blocking part of it. Walter Matthews, he's on his way. So is Walker Lyons. On paper, by far, this is an improved group. Lots of potential if Coach Riley and, I guess by extension, Zach Hansen, if they use these guys. Coach Riley calls the plays. Coach Hansen develops them. I know Coach Hansen works with them. Coach Riley, let's dial up the plays. Call. Let's throw the ball to the tight end. We'll see if that happens. Wide receivers. Yeah. If we're looking for the group on offense that is the most improved from last year, it's the wide receivers. All right. You got Kyle Ford, Jaden Richardson, and Jay Fair transferring to USC. They're joining Xavier Jordan, the only wide receiver commit in the 2024 class. Wide receiver commit. But the guys who are returning, they're a year older. And that's why this group is the most improved. Forget the guys who they added. If the guys who played in the Holiday Bowl, you know who I'm talking about, the 4 freshmen who are now sophomores, Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson, Jacoby Lane, Makai Lemon, add in Kyron Hudson, who is not a sophomore, but you get those guys returning. I'm willing to bet that USC's wide receiver group is just as good as anybody's group in the country. And that's even with the loss of Taj Washington and Brendan Rice going to the NFL. That's how good this group can be. So in this order, the most improved position groups on the opposite side of the ball. Wide receiver, number 1. Running backs, number 2. Tight ends, number 3. Quarterback, and then the offensive line. I think the offensive line has the potential, but we need to see these guys up close, up in personal against LSU in game 1. That's when we'll be able to say, all right, they're improved. So again, we'll see how this plays out during the season. But right now, after spring camp, the roster, the way it's configured, that's how I would list the position groups top to bottom. I'm not going to say there's a giant gap from the wide receivers to the offensive line, but someone's got to be first. Someone's got to continue to improve. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/locked on and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, let's talk about the defense. It's on everybody's mind, right? I'm going to keep it real. Alex Grinch was kicked out of USC, kicked off campus. Lincoln Riley said, "Get out of here. You're my friend, but I can't use you anymore." So right away, each defensive group improved right off the bat. Now we're going to decide which ones of them improved the most. Let's start with the defensive line. This was anticipated to be the most improved group, especially once the spring transfer portal window opened. Well, let's just say they're working on it, right? We're not going to lament what they missed out on, but they're still working on bringing in some interior defensive line help. We'll see what happens there. If we're breaking the group into edges and interior guys, they're better on the edge, right? You got the freshman Cameron Fountain. You brought in Lorenzo Cowan as another freshman you brought in. You've got the guys returning from last year like Braylon Shelby. Is Anthony Lucas an edge or is he an interior guy? I think he'll play interior, but they got him on the edge as well. Jamil Muhammad, is he ready to take the next step, build on what he did last year? Inside, Bear returns, but he needs help, right? So we're going to see if Nate Clifton, Kobe Pepe, are they going to be enough? We've got confidence. I think Eric Henderson is going to be able to develop anybody he gets his hands on. But there's a reason why everybody, including Lincoln Riley, your head coach, said this is USC's biggest and most important immediate need. And they haven't addressed it yet. He's not saying he doesn't have confidence in what he has on the roster, but he knows he needs more. He's not knocking the guys. It is what it is. You want to make the room as competitive as possible. And that means bringing in more players. Look, like I said, Bear returns. But, Isaiah Rakes, when he pulled that shenanigans of, I'm going to come get a payday, and I'm going to go back to the SEC and get another payday, that hurt. It helped. That's why Lincoln Riley was a little ticked off. What about the linebackers? All right, you got Easton Mascarenas Arnold. He transferred in from Oregon State. He's joining Eric Gentry, Rajon Davis, and Mason Cobb. Those are the guys with actual Power 5 experience. Okay? USC lost Tackett Curtis. Apparently, he feels more comfortable in Alex Grinch's scheme. He followed him over there to Wisconsin. You hate to say addition by subtraction, but I'm going to remind everybody. Once Alex Grinch was relieved of his duties, Tackett Curtis was kind of relieved of his duties. His playing time went from starter to part-time to almost no time. And that's why he is no longer on the roster. They also supplemented the linebacker room. They went out. We got some freshmen. You've got already on the roster, already taking part in spring camp. You had Elijah Newby, Desmond Stevens was there. You also added Jaden Walker, who will be arriving. So again, you upgraded the position room, the linebacker room. You got a lot more talent in there, more guys to work with. I think the room's biggest addition, where they're going to improve the most. And again, not a knock on the previous guy who was coaching there, but Matt Entz got a head coach who subjugated himself, stepping down to be a linebacker coach. And if you've ever heard him talk, if you've ever watched him, that's a dude. I think it's going to be a really good group once the season gets going. And here's the other thing. The linebacker room, that position group, all of them, those guys could be busy if the middle of the defensive line doesn't do its job. Now, if they're doing their job, linebackers are going to be there to make a lot of tackles. If they're not doing their job, they're going to be making a lot of tackles on the second level. not closer to the line of scrimmage, but probably further downfield, closer to their own end zone. We don't want that kind of production from the linebackers. No, we don't. Okay, what about the safeties? Kalen Bullock, he's gone. He's in the NFL. You're returning safeties. So Jalen Smith, Bryson Shaw, Zion Branch, Anthony Beavers, and Christian Pierce. Those are your returners. We didn't get to see anything of Jalen Smith during the spring. He hurt himself. He looked pretty good in the Holiday Bowl. Bryson Shaw now gets to experience what it feels like to be a safety without Alex Grinch and having to speak for him. And I think that's going to be a lot of pressure off of his back. Zion Branch, get healthy, show why you were considered one of the top safety prospects coming out of high school. And then Anthony Beavers, what he did in the Holiday Bowl, he's in there in that starting rotation. And he's definitely in the 2 deep. Now, with that said, USC brought in Achille Arnold, all conference from Oregon State. Kamari Ramsey from UCLA. He kind of knows the defensive coordinator, Antonlynn. That's 2 potential starters that come from outside USC's walls. Excuse me. And then you have some young guys coming in. You got Jarvis Boatwright Jr. Huge. You got Marquise Gallegos. He's gotten bigger. Braylon Connolly. I don't know if they're going to use him at safety or cornerback, but he'll be coming in. It's going to be a competitive room, that's for sure. And I think it's a better room than last year, just because of the depth and the amount of talent you have there. Oh, I almost forgot. They even added Greedy Vance from Florida State. So on top of, Jalen Smith and Bryson Shaw and Zion Branch and the 2 transfers, Achille Arnold and Kamari Ramsey, you also added another transfer with extensive playing time from Florida State, Greedy Vance. Definitely got better. The cornerbacks. I don't know which position group got better, if it's the cornerbacks or the safeties. It's kind of neck and neck. I like the cornerbacks. I'm going to give the edge to the corners. I had to flip a coin. Somebody had to be, right? Somebody had to be the most improved. I'm giving it to the cornerback room. You've got Doug Belk, who is handling that group. He'll also deal with this with the safeties, but Antonlynn is a safeties coach by nature as well. So got a really good group of coaches coaching the defensive backfield. Jacoby Covington, Prophet Brown, Malachi Crawford. Those are your returning guys from last year's roster. I'm good with Jacoby and Prophet as your starters. I like what they showed in the Holiday Bowl. I really did. Jacoby and Prophet right now, they're being pushed for playing time, though. For the starter roles, you got John Humphrey, who came over from UCLA. You got DeCarlos Nicholson, big, long, rangy guy from Mississippi State, 6'4". And then also he came in the spring from St. John Bosco, Marcellus Williams. All he does is make plays. He showed up in the spring, picked off a ball. I'll also mention Isaiah Rubin. He comes in this summer, the cornerback from Los Alamitos. So I definitely believe if we were to say, all right, list them from top to bottom, my first 2 groups, I've got cornerbacks and safeties and cornerbacks. You can flip a coin, whichever one comes up heads, whichever one comes up tails. I don't think you're going to get much of an argument. Those 2 groups improved the most so far during the offseason. Now, the latter 2 groups, though, they've got to get better. And I'm talking about the linebackers and D-line. So in order, cornerbacks, safeties, linebackers, D-line. I would like it to be, because you always want to go from the inside out, D-line, cornerbacks, safeties, linebackers. Or again, you want to, if you can stop everything at the line of scrimmage, you've got a really good defense. Right now, USC knows what they have in the second half of their defense, that second level, cornerbacks and safeties. And I think they have a general idea what they can get from the linebackers. That D-line room, though, a lot of potential, but also some scary ideas if they don't get some help inside. All right. I'm a competitive person. You hear it in my voice. I tell you I'm a competitive person. So you have to agree. If you don't, let's fight about it. Competitive. All right. Because of that competitive side, I become a big fan of Monopoly Go. You've heard of it? It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards all over the world, crazy locations. You're building up amazing cities, and that's going to bring you big money. Here's the best part. You want to screw around with your friends, have some fun, be like me. You own the properties, walk in, take their money, go into their vaults, open their safe, take what you want and leave. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world, get in some timed tournaments, earn huge rewards. So get in the game, join your friends, download Monopoly Go. It's now free on the App Store or Google Play. So I'm trolling around. I'm on the interwebs, kind of looking for stuff, and I saw something that caught my eye. I think I saw that former USC basketball commit, Trent Perry. In fact, he was one of the highest rated commits in USC's 2024 class that Andy Enfield was bringing in before Andy Enfield took off to go to SMU. Well, Trent Perry, allegedly, apparently, possibly, is going to be a walk-on at UCLA, but he's going to do that because he's getting a really nice NIL deal. Okay. Is this how scholarships are going to be used in the future? Is this what they're going to transition to? I think this is the way to go. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Let's start with basketball. You only have, 12 scholarship players? You're allowed 12, right? I think that's the number. If you've got guys who are NIL worthy, who are worth the bag, I'm using finger quotes for you guys who are listening and not watching, why not let them pay for their own scholarship? These elite guys who play basketball, they're only going to college for 1 or 2 years anyways. Some will extend it for 3 years. Let them pay for their own scholarship. Let's have the university save their scholarships for those, I don't know, we'll call them complimentary players, right? Players who you need on the team, but probably don't demand or earn that big Caleb Williams type of NIL package. I don't know. How long is it before everyone just becomes an employee? We're just going to sign contracts. Again, I think this is going to start with basketball, and then it's going to work its way into football. Okay, let's assume Caleb Williams was making $10 million NIL. That's the number that was floating around out there. He literally could afford to pay for his own scholarship. He could pay for a few football scholarships. I don't know. It just seems a little awkward that you've got, 3, 4, handful of players in your locker room that are walking around with a lot of FU money that most people will never see in their lifetime. And here you've got their teammates who are getting a scholarship. Some of them are just getting by. It just doesn't feel right. I don't know. They're going to have to figure it out. They're going to have to fix college sports because it has gone off the deep end. Right now, I see Thelma and Louise. They're driving towards the cliff. Pretty soon, it's going to be hands up. Here we go. Hey, did any of you, this caught my eye. I thought it was kind of funny. You see where Snoop Dogg, D-O-double-G, He's putting his name. He's sponsoring a bowl game in Tucson, Arizona, called the Gin and Juice Bowl, sponsored by Snoop. Yeah, I like this. Laid back. Got his mind on his money and his money on his mind. Wow. I'll tell you what, pregame at that bowl, it's going to be lit. Literally. You know what? If I'm in charge of that game kicks off. You know what time kickoff starts? 4:20. There is so much you can do with Snoop Dogg sponsoring a bowl game. So many memes, so many jokes. This might actually end up being a really good idea. The way we're going today in society, all bets are off, right? Who knows? And yeah, Snoop, he ain't smokeless anymore. Please. Tell you what, though, he's pretty mainstream now. He's marketing everything from Corona. He does Martha Stewart commercials. He's now sponsoring a bowl game. It's come a long way. Tell you what, man. It's the world we live in today. But you know what? Hey, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes is, I need you guys to come back for another episode of Locked on USC tomorrow. We'll be back with another episode. That's what we do here. Did you like the show? I know you did. If you haven't become a subscriber yet on YouTube, what are you waiting for? We're trying to get this show growing. Keep going. Keep subscribing. Tell your friends. Subscribe for them. You like the show? Smash that thumbs up. Hit that bell notification button so you don't miss any news. This is where you're going to come when you want to find out about any transfer portal information, recruit signings, the latest, whatever. All right. When you're done making Locked on USC your first listen every day, what are you doing? You're heading on over to wearec.com so you can read all that great written content that I put up, that Eric McKinney puts up, that Chris Arledge, Scott Schrader. We got you covered. So until then, everyone, you know what to do. Tell you what I can do is push the right buttons.